I think we're back. We're more committed. When we created the Juneteenth Blackout group, it was important to us. And we've been kind of slacking a little bit, but I think we're back in effect. And we're here today to just sort of, we want to continue the celebration of Juneteenth and just define Juneteenth for ourselves. And I think that this is what we're all about. This is what our guest is all about. And so I want to just, first of all, say hello, members of Juneteenth Blackout Group, anybody that's watching us. I'm Shawn Speaks. I'm an administrator of the Juneteenth Blackout Group. We started this group back in 2020, and it's actually three of us that are main administrators. There's me, it's Terrence, and it's Derek. And Derek could not be with us today, but he always sends his love to the Juneteenth Blackout Group. I am excited today because Terrence and I have been talking, and we had decided that, we had decided to take the group private, as many of you know. And I didn't realize how many people was going to actually be glad for us to take the group private. But we were taking the group private because we want to be able to have some very heartfelt conversations and feel like we can share what we need to share, grow how we need to grow, without all of the bots and trash stuff that some people were posting or whatever was posting. And so we're just here to lift up each other, lift up our people. And I am glad to be a part of the Juneteenth Blackout Group. And so I want to turn it over to you, Terrence, because me and you had decided that leading up to Juneteenth, we had started seeing so many people posting about having Juneteenth events. And we were just like, we're so proud. We're so proud and we're so happy. And it was like, you know what? We want to get people on the show to talk about their event. And that's how we landed here today. And so, Terrence, I'm turning it over to you.
Okay, well, I began to just reach out to the different people that are hosting events really throughout the country and made contact with Nicole Rogers out of Albuquerque, New Mexico. And she was so gracious to come on with her team to begin the discussion or the dialogue around this year's Juneteenth event in Albuquerque, New Mexico. So this will kind of be our preliminary promo, if you will, and we hope to have a few other promotional sessions like this as we get closer to the Albuquerque, New Mexico event. We'll turn it over to you, Nicole, to kind of introduce your team and just kind of take it from there.
Yeah, thank you. I'm so excited that we get to do this. I've been a fan of the Juneteenth Blackout group for a while, and we're excited that we got to share things on there. It's really great to see all the momentum, like you said, across the whole country, see what other people are doing that we can align with. And our community team has been planning Juneteenth together for about 3 years. And so my name's Nicole Rogers, and I'm not by any means the leader. It's really a team effort. We couldn't do this without all of the parts that are engaged in doing really the work to plan a large scale event. It's a lot of work. I don't think people realize how much behind the scenes stuff we're doing and talking and texting and group chatting and, all leading up to the event. We've been planning since I think we started meeting January, something around there, just so that we can really create a space for our community to just celebrate all things Black. And that's really what it's all about for us. So I'm excited that we have our other teammates, Jeremy Jasper and Torrance Green, who will introduce themselves because I can't do it justice. So.
Hi, my name is Jeremy Jasper. I am an international songwriter and producer, and I kind of came on board with Nicole to kind of help with more like the entertainment and like throwing festival sides of things. When we first got together in 2020, I remember our first event was like at a park, and it was so magical. It was so cool. And we brought sound and we got a stage, and it really inspired us to want to kind of expand things and make it bigger. Okay, well, if we did this with just a park, then like, how could we, expand it? So Last year we were able to kind of build on that and take things over to Civic Plaza, which is like a big plaza in Albuquerque, and we did so well. So yeah, I've been working with Nicole for the 3 years since we started, and it's been a really awesome journey. Just proud to be on a part of the team.
Good evening, everybody. Torrance Green. I'm a community organizer here in Albuquerque, New Mexico. Been part of the organizing since 2020 when we first decided that we wanted to do a Juneteenth again in Albuquerque, and being able to just bring back the feel and, you know, bring our city together. Like we've been saying, it's more of a family reunion for us of just getting everybody together, people you may not have seen, especially the first one after the pandemic is getting out, and people that you hadn't seen even before the pandemic, getting us all together back into, you know, being in community. So thank you guys for your time. Thank you for inviting us.
Awesome.
Thank you. Awesome. Awesome. Go, Terrence.
Now I'm thinking you're going to be the one driving this. So, Nicole, what are some of the things you guys have kind of on tap for this year's Juneteenth event?
Yeah, so this year we're doing a 2-day event, Saturday the 18th and Sunday the 19th. And Saturday is a long day. We're doing 12 p.m. all the way to 10 p.m. And we're featuring a lot of our local talent, everything from hip hop to jazz. We have a ska reggae band. We have,
Nice.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Trying to highlight our local talent, but then also we have some national acts that are coming out that I know Jasper will tell you a little bit more about, because that's his purview, is making sure I'm not cool enough to know what's cool and who to be bringing out here, especially with our small budget, you know, that we're trying to also bring national acts to Albuquerque, so that our community can also, you know, because that's really a big driver for us. We have also, in addition to that, we have vendors, Black-owned businesses, and resources that come out for people who want to reach the Black community, and really just focusing on buying Black the whole weekend. So we really make everything free, the event's free, the parking's free. Really, it's all, we want you to buy Black the whole weekend from our local Black-owned businesses, which is a really, really big deal for us.
So I'm probably going to ask this question multiple times as we go through here, but if someone wanted more information about what's going on, the activities, or they want to volunteer, they want to help, or they want to contribute, what's the best way for them to do that?
Yeah, so we have our website. We have a great marketing team, a young gentleman and Jasper kind of have a little subcommittee that do all of our marketing. So we have a website. We have nmjuneteenth.com. You can go there. You could see the lineup. We're finalizing the schedule and be posting that lineup of all the local acts. So we've just announced I'll let Jasper talk about our national acts that we just announced. So yeah, nmjuneteenth.com is where you can go you can subscribe to the website so you get the updates. You can donate on the website, and you can see our gallery from last year and the year before, where you can see the progression of the event and how Albuquerque gets down for Juneteenth, which is really cool. We also have it live streamed, so folks who are still a little skittish and coming out, we try to live stream it so folks can still participate and click, clue into the live stream. But I'll let Jasper talk about the national acts because we're really excited about that.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you, Nicole. So last year was our first year actually bringing out local talent, from other places, and we were able to get a couple of different artists. And this year, we're actually going to be working with Mick Jenkins from Chicago. He's coming out with his band. Big fan of Mick Jenkins. I've always have been a fan of his music, and he's really a very awesome conscious rapper. So just really love everything that he's doing. And then we have a DJ from New York, from Harlem, named Austin Mills. Yeah. And
you must have some really good connects, man. You bringing them.
Just pulling our strings to make it make sense, man. I think nice. A lot of people are really intrigued by Albuquerque and New Mexico because it's a lot of places. It's a venue and a place that a lot of people have never been. So I remember when we spoke to Mick Jenkins, and he was like, well, I never even been to New Mexico. So it's going to be a good show for him to come out and be in a place where he'll get to play for the first time. So super excited.
That is amazing. My heart, is really touched here because not only did y'all started in 2020 and in the wake of the George Floyd murder. I just call it what it is, Sean. Don't sugarcoat it, right? Just call it what it is. Yeah, call it what it is. And y'all are keeping up the momentum. And I love the fact that I think it was you, Nicole, you said the progression. Like you can go on the website and you can see the progression, because sometimes we don't like to put in the work to see something grow. You know, it's like we want to have something, and if it is not huge and big the first go around, we sort of kind of lose energy, and we just kind of you don't give up, but you just kind of you lose that thing that make you keep going, right? And so I love the fact that that y'all have not lost energy, and that you're seeing progression, and you have somebody like Jasper that can bring in talent, because, you know, look, it's the truth. I'm gonna be truthful. We like, you know, music and entertainment. And if you can get that key of having some type of entertainment, you can pull the crowd. Hopefully we grow, you know, we can keep that, but grow more past that. But that is just what the truth is for our community right now.
Yeah.
And so I'm very, you know, so I'm very happy for y'all for being able to pull that off. And hopefully one year the Juneteenth Blackout crew can come up to Albuquerque and hang out and enjoy Juneteenth with y'all.
That would be so awesome. And I love that you talked about the progression, because for us last year, we surveyed the folks that RSVP. And of course, all our folks don't RSVP, but the ones that did, we were able to survey them and say, you know, what did you like? What do you want this year to see differently? And a big part of it was they want more education. They love the music fest, but they also wanted education. So this year we have some breakout rooms in our convention center, which is right across from Civic Plaza, to provide education based on what the community wanted. So we're trying to, you know, each year take our community's voice and listen to what they want, which is why Sunday is our gospel kind of family friendly. We call Saturday our turn up day, and Sunday is like, you know what I mean, our gospel and Father's Day type of tributes and things like that. But we really want to try to cater to all the different intersections of our community. We have an LGBTQ component. You know, we're really trying to think of all the intersections of our community and making sure we're touching that something for all of them, for all of us.
Exactly. All of us, right? Yeah, exactly. All right, so I do have a couple questions. I want to start just sort of an icebreaker question. Have you always, and this could be individually, y'all can answer it separately, have you always celebrated Juneteenth? I'll start with you, Jeremy.
For me, no, I didn't always celebrate Juneteenth. I grew up in Chicago. I remember the day like coming around every year, but it wasn't like a celebration or anything. It was just like, oh, today's Juneteenth. And I remember like, you know, kind of going to the park and doing something small. But, you know, I think growing up, the focus was more on like the 4th of July. That's when everyone came together. Yeah. It wasn't for Juneteenth. So I remember like, it was like something that I knew of, but it wasn't something I celebrated. No.
Okay. What about you, Nicole?
For me, it's something I can remember celebrating early. I grew up in Santa Fe, New Mexico, and my parents used to bring us up to Albuquerque, which is a bigger city than Santa Fe, to celebrate Juneteenth. And I remember, I think I was 8 years old, and there's, you know, there's like 55,000 Black people in New Mexico, right? So it's far and few between for us to see big gatherings of all of us. And I remember, you know, when I was 8, my parents bringing us down, we caravanned with, I swear, all the Black families from Santa Fe, caravan down to Albuquerque together, got hotel rooms. And I remember it was the first time in my life I saw a sea of Black people, and the sounds and the drums and the music. And I just remember like looking at my dad, like, where are they all? Like, this is beautiful. And so last year was surreal for me to stand on the stage and like have had a little part of planning it again as an adult. It was really cool. And to see the Black babies enjoy. We have a water attraction down at Civic Plaza, and some of the best pictures were from just the Black joy of the kids just playing and having a good time, and just seeing people embrace, and just like we said, it's a big family reunion, and people so excited to see each other, and it's really a beautiful time. So I've celebrated it for quite some time myself.
That's amazing. That's amazing. What about you, Torrance?
Yeah, I've always celebrated Juneteenth. It was a big part of my childhood and growing up, in Albuquerque was, during the summertime, Juneteenth is going to come around. It falls on my birthday. So the thing was kind of like Christmas and Santa Claus and the Easter Bunny, like, no, this is your birthday party. This is for you. So it's always been a big thing for Juneteenth. And yeah, every year it's always something on my calendar that I recognize. I see that it is happening, coming up. And again, like Nicole said, being able to participate in organizing and keeping the tradition going is huge for me.
Wow. Now this just lets you know that we can all identify as Black, and we live in America, but we all have very different experiences, because I had never heard of Juneteenth until I moved to Texas.
And you grew up where?
I grew up in Mississippi.
I grew up in Arkansas. Same thing. Never heard.
Never. Just didn't. I'm just being honest.
Nothing to celebrate because we never knew about it.
Never knew about it.
Well, they didn't want you to know about it. They didn't want us to know about it. They don't. I mean, that's pretty much what it is. They didn't want us to some of us weren't free till 2 years later. Like,
let me tell you this one, Sean.
Uh-huh.
So when I first heard about Juneteenth, I was at the University of Houston, where I attended college. A well-known, prominent civil rights leader was on campus speaking,
mm-hmm.
and he made a disparaging comment about Black people in Texas celebrating Juneteenth. I won't say his name because everybody would know who he is. But even from that point on, I wasn't motivated to celebrate Juneteenth, because even though I'm living in Houston, I'm living in Texas, very close to Galveston, where it all started, right? And just that comment he made, it was like the people were just backwards in Texas, because you're celebrating something that you learned 2 years late. The people learned 2 years later they were free, and now we're celebrating that. And he just couldn't get it. And
let me tell you this, Terrence, that when I first heard about Juneteenth, when I had started living in Texas, that was what I heard too. And because I didn't use my own critical thinking, I just was like, why would I want to celebrate that? That makes no sense. I don't be late to the party and then celebrate, being late. But as I realize now that's just bad reasoning.
It is.
Right? It's just bad reasoning. And, and for me, what happened with me is I just found about I've been in Texas for a while. So that just let you know I was been in Texas and still hadn't heard about it. It's not like I drove to Texas and started hearing about Juneteenth. I was in Texas for years before I actually heard about Juneteenth. The first time I ever really celebrated Juneteenth was a couple of years before we started the Juneteenth Blackout group, to be honest, right? I was downtown, got out of court early. One of my other attorney friends got out of court early, and she was like, it was a beautiful blue sky day. And it was just one of them days where you didn't really want to go home, right? And she was like, oh, you want to go get a drink? Let's go celebrate Juneteenth. Juneteenth? Oh, okay. And then that is literally how I started just sort of even acknowledging what that was, right? And we may have talked about it 2 seconds and moved on. But I had heard that, what you heard, Terrence. And so it just never did appeal to me, right? But the way I look at it now is it's not about when they found out. Because if you focus so much on when they found out, then you're giving other people the power, right? And they didn't have, even though, we think that they stroked the pen and that's the reason why, our people were free. I think you're missing it if you think that. You're absolutely missing it. It's like a flower, a seed that's been planted in the ground. And as long as that seed is covered by the ground, you think that that seed is sort of imprisoned or enslaved because it's underneath the ground and you don't see its growth. But at some point, the inner growth of that seed breaks out of its husk and its shell, and it grows and it breaks through the ground. And that happens even though the gardener doesn't know when it's going to break out of that shell, right? And that to me is the way I look at it. It's not about what I think it was what General Gardner, what was his name? Granger did. It's not about what Granger did. It's not about what the president did. It's not about that. It was time for us not to be slaves anymore, for our people, our forefathers not to be slaves. We had risen internally above that. Now, the fact that maybe, you know, somebody had to sign on a piece of paper, et cetera, you're missing the point if you focus too much on that, right? Yeah. And, you know, so yeah, that's the way I look at it now.
Yeah, and people, we hear that too here. We, you know, here, that's not something to celebrate. And the way I look at it is, until all of us are free, none of us are free. So whether y'all think that or not, you weren't free till 1860. I mean, we say free-ish over here because we're not all the way free. Right. Prison industrial complex.
It's still evolving.
Absolutely. Yeah, prison, all these racial wealth gap, all of the disparities, right? We free-ish. We're free-ish. So, and that's my biggest rebuttal to people who say that is like, you weren't free until all of us were free. Like, period. Yeah. So, and that really, they're like, oh, you're right. Yeah. So it's not about that. And if, I don't know, I feel like it's our Independence Day, not 4th of July, you know, like it's not that. It's our
I agree with you. I
think it speaks a lot to how Black history is taught in the United States, because how does half of the country know a piece of history that is that important and the other half doesn't know? And a lot of people, even in that half of the country, don't know. White people don't know what Juneteenth is or what happened, you know, in the whole situation. So, I mean, the way Black history has been taught and the way that it's been suppressed, and I can't imagine them having to look at it and be like, oh shit, it took us how long to free the slaves on the West? It looks bad.
It does look bad.
It does. Yeah. It does.
Because it was bad.
It was horrible. It was horrible. But it was also too the beginning of sort of us coming into our own sense of power, where we could actually express the power. We always had the power, but it's one thing of having the power and being able to express the power. I was watching someone in the Juneteenth Blackout group posted an interview that they did with someone whose great grandfather was one of the people that were on that island in Galveston that got the notice about being free. And he was saying how his great-great-grandfather had 2 last names or something like that, right? And how once he was no longer free, he chose to drop the slave name and go with, I think, the middle name. Mm-hmm. And, you know, and to me, that's powerful, right? Because it's the beginning of exercising choice, right? And so to me, it's those types of stories that, you know, that I like to hold on to, and how they went from being free to building, you know, semi-Black Wall Streets, you know, in different areas of America. The power that we have when we free ourselves from the labels of other people, right? And to me, that's the Juneteenth celebration is, you know, we can self-identify, we can self-choose, we can decide, we can disagree, we can agree. You know, it's that ability to have our own identification, not tied to some other group controlling us, right? Or controlling who we have to show up as. You know, it's the Juneteenth is a beautiful celebration, and it really as people who identify as Black or African American that live in America, we really should celebrate Juneteenth on a bigger, grander scale than we do the 4th of July. We really should.
Absolutely. We do. We definitely do here in New Mexico. And especially, I was saying before we went live, we have what you're saying reminds me of our Black homesteaders here in New Mexico who came here after slavery and set up homesteads, and like Vado, New Mexico, on the Texas, New Mexico border is huge. Like they would have whole people from Texas would come up to Vado to celebrate Juneteenth way back in the day. And the 1900s were early 1900s type of thing. So we have, and one of our museums now actually has a Black homesteader exhibit talking about the families and the legacies of folks that did that. So we're standing on those shoulders. We have a historically Black neighborhood. It's not really that now, but in Albuquerque, that was the hub for the Black community in our Kirkland edition. And those pastors in that area kept Juneteenth going all these years. So we're standing on all those shoulders to just, and we've been lucky in Albuquerque. Our mayor made Juneteenth a holiday for city employees last year. So last year we had the day off and the Friday off before Juneteenth. And so this will be our second year having it off. So we were lucky that we have leaders who care and who made it law here, that all city employees were off for Juneteenth last year. So we're lucky that we have a great, people who care about it and want to see it grow, like you said, on a big level.
Well, this is the thing, if it's not important to us, why should it be important to other people, right? What I'm beginning to understand is that we have to make what we want important. Now, first we got to know what it is that we want. But once we kind of start thinking about what we want, we got to make that important. We can't always wait for other people to tell us what should be important for us. We've got to say, okay, this is important for us. We're going to make this a big deal because it's a big deal for us. And I'm almost sure that if we make it a big deal, it'll become a big deal around the world to other people simply because it's a big deal to us. But if it's not a big deal to us, it's not going to be a big deal to anybody else. And it should not be a big deal to anybody else if it's not a big deal to us. So I am glad that we are beginning to have more and more Juneteenth celebrations around America. And we're showing up and saying, this is important to us. And guess what? We are unashamed. We are unashamed, right? It didn't matter if it was 2 years, 3 years, 5 years. We are unashamed, because a lot of times the way, we kind of get stuck sometimes is that we become ashamed of our history, right? We have no reason to be ashamed of our history. Look at us now, And so I'm very excited about the fact that we have, just so many groups that are celebrating Juneteenth and spreading the message of celebration for this event.
Yeah, I think I love what you said about that, because we need to change our own narrative. Even I'm sick of us, because we're in this country, right? But Black people are the global majority,
not minority, right?
Louder for the people in the back. We are the global majority. And if we could harness that and unify in a way that we haven't, which by design they don't want us to, right? The power and like you said, we already have it. We just need to harness that, and for good, so that we can drive our, like you said, what matters to us, what our community needs and cares about should be on the forefront. And we need to be unapologetic about that.
Unapologetic about it. Yeah. Exactly. And it doesn't mean we're excluding anybody or not caring about anybody. I care about all people, right? But at the end of the day, we have to be unapologetic about what's important for us. Because if we keep allowing ourselves to be put on the back burner for somebody else's policy or for somebody else's what's important for them, then we're going to always be put on the back burner. And then you can't be mad when you're stuck on the back burner, where you kept putting your agenda on the back burner or making somebody else's agenda more important. We got to have our own agenda, and it's got to be important, and we got to be willing to stand up to it, unapologetic, not feel like we got to apologize for anything. I'm not apologizing for what happened to my forefathers. I don't have to apologize for the fact that my forefathers went through what they went through, and I am a child of them. And I feel like they should be honored, and what they experience should be honored. And some of the things that's happening to us now need to stop, right? But that's on us to stop it. You know what I'm saying? It's on us to stop it. We have to keep trying everything we possibly can. We have to keep trying. There's this thing that I know most of us have heard of, the theory of learned helplessness, right? I'm sure we've heard of, have you heard of that? Okay, well, if I give you the example, you'll know what I'm talking about. So you've heard of the story of, let's say, the elephant, that when the elephant was a baby, they put a chain on the elephant's leg. And then when the elephant got bigger, the elephant could have just moved and broke the chain, but they had trained the elephant to basically not do anything, not move, right? So the big old elephant was chained up and enslaved by something that it could have easily broken, but it didn't break it because it didn't put forth the effort, right? And so that was the theory for a long time, was that you train learned helplessness. Well, as many of you may know, I like to study the brain. I love studying the brain. And one of the things that one of the scientists that basically worked on one of those experiments that sort of kind of came up with learned helplessness, when he went from sort of being a psychiatrist, psychologist to a neuroscientist, he started to find out that, okay, the part of the brain that the amygdala that we usually say is a fight, flight, freeze. The natural experience of when the brain is faced with some type of anxiety or some type of fear tactic is to actually freeze. That's natural. That's the natural response. The learned behavior is to fight or fight, to flee or fight, right? Mm-hmm. That's the learned behavior. And so now the theory is learned helpfulness, right? And learned helpfulness basically is saying you have the power to get to wherever you're trying to get to, do whatever you're trying to do, get over this anxiety, get over this fear, but you have to keep trying, right? If you go by learned helplessness, you don't try. You're like the elephant, you don't even move your leg. The elephant could have just moved the leg one time and would have broke the chain, right? But if you go by the learned helpfulness, meaning no matter what's happening in my life, no matter what happened in my past, no matter what happened to my forefathers, no matter what is happening to my people even today, we're going to keep trying. We're going to keep doing. We're going to keep putting forth that effort, because we're learning how to be helpful to what it is that we want in this life.
Bring about the change. So Nicole, what would you guys like to see as the ultimate outcome for this year's celebration? What are some of your goals, or some of the things you'd like to see achieved from this year's celebration?
Yeah, I would love to see, again, people buy Black, again, for our Black-owned businesses that don't necessarily have brick and mortar businesses that, can come and see a big economic impact for their business just from our 2-day event. So my hope is that everybody comes out. This year, we're not as lucky as last year with, we were the only ones bold enough to do an event in person. Now it's opened up. We just found out Ashanti and Ja Rule are going to be here. Wow. And so we want people, right? We're like, come on, man, why don't y'all just bring them over here to us? Over here. So what we really hope is that people come to the event, that they don't choose, to go spend money somewhere else, that they come, they see a free show, they get to see their family, friends who they haven't, and also buy Black. So that's for me, that's the biggest thing that I want, is people to show up so that they could buy Black. And so we could support our businesses, and push our agenda forward. Closing the racial wealth gap is that's a whole nother, huge. It's going to take more than events to do that, but we can begin to get education. And I hope that people really take to heart our theme. Our theme this year is healing and unification. We're going to have a whole healing room with dim lights and salt lamps and yoga mats and singing bowls and sage and crystals and all that.
I love that.
so that folks can, we're going to be hosting some.
What are you doing, Jeremy?
Yeah, Jeremy's meditating. He's our Zen guy. He's our Zen guy. Yeah. So we can promote healing and unification. Yeah. We're doing some community healing circles people can sign up for in that room so that they can actually like talk about self-care, mental health. It's just as important as your body health. So for me, it's really just really people actually like buying into the healing and unification. And we should be able to unify just because we're Black. That's all we need. Just one thing for us all to connect on. It's our Blackness.
Yeah.
But I think the healing piece is so important because I feel like that's why we have such a difficult time uniting, is because we do have so much of the effects of the trauma. And I think as a community, we don't quite recognize that impact, that what our ancestors went through, how it got passed on, that trauma, it never got dealt with. And so a lot of what we struggle with that keeps us divided and unable to work together to really do, and I'm not saying we don't work together to do some things. Like we can put on an entertainment event, but that whole issue of closing that wealth gap is one of those kind of issues to me where we won't do that alone. It's going to take a collective. It's going to take us being unified and being able to do things that are more institutional. And that's one of the things I really do like about, and I'm a visionary. And so the vision I have for this is that, you know, what's going on in Albuquerque, what's going on in Seattle, the groups that are putting on all these different events, that brain trust can begin to do some work beyond the Juneteenth holiday to help close that racial wealth gap, to help bring about that unity that will just change generations, honestly. And I think it really can start with these Juneteenth celebrations by just bringing everyone together after these events are over and saying, okay, now what can we do to impact the next 11 months, you know, nationally? What can we all do as a collective to impact the next 11 months? That's what I'm hoping comes about as a result of us coming together around Juneteenth and celebrating. And I think we must do that. I really applaud you what you guys are doing around the healing. I think you'll get a lot from that over those 11 months, a lot.
What I'd like to see from the Juneteenth, and this is one of the big goals, especially out here in Albuquerque, New Mexico, we have a 2% population of African Americans, is finding our identity, no matter what it is, and being comfortable with celebrating it and celebrating ourselves and enjoying ourselves. I don't care if they go to Ashanti, if they go to the white party, no matter where they're at, if they use that day and that time to celebrate yourself, where you came from, who you are, and us as a community.
That's awesome. That's necessary. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely necessary. Absolutely necessary. Healing is important because it affects not only our physical body, like you said, Nicole, but it affects our mental health, right? And a lot of us are dealing with some form of mental health challenges, whether it's anxiety or depression over anxiousness, whatever it may be, right? And it's nothing to really be ashamed of, right? Because a lot of it has come from not healing, not being able to be transparent, not being able, as Torrance says, to have whatever your identity is, whatever it is that makes you who you are, show up in that in a confident truth about I belong here, I am who I am, and be good with that, be okay with that, be great with that. And so it definitely starts with the healing, because I think if we can get healed from the inside, that will naturally help us join together, because we'll start to think better and we'll start to make better decisions and we'll start to think about the future. You know, there's like that, I know I'm not going to get the complete quote, but it's like, if you don't think about what you want your future to be, somebody else has already thought about it and you're going to have to live in it, right? And so it's time for us to start to think about what we want our future to be. And so with that, because we've gone over our time, that'd be a good question to end with. What do we see, or what do you see in 10 years, having these Juneteenth events, what kind of impact will it have on the, not just Black American community, but on people in the world in the next 10 years? What do you see having these Juneteenth events will do?
Yeah,
I'll start with you.
I think that that's actually the most important thing with this is like connecting everybody, you know. And I think a lot of times, especially in the generation that we live in now, a lot of people don't know about history of other races. We kind of only was fed one history growing up, and that was like of white America. So now like getting to see like that there's a lot of vast history with other, you know, cultures, and bringing those people together, I think it's going to just continue to just bring in that like complete unity where people are going to be able to see things and be like, oh, like I don't look at that person just as a Black person, but I look at that person as a friend, as a, you know, like an equal, and really just help bring more equality to the world for sure.
Bring more equality. I like that. I like that. Bring more equality. What about you, Nicole?
Man, I was just sitting here thinking 10 years from now, I would love to see more, like Jasper said, more unity and connection around even just how we plan events. You know, it's always been my dream for us to have one big event for the entire city. And it doesn't, you know, it doesn't have to be that way, but I think it would be nice to be able to connect in that way with all of the different segments of our community. I think it would also help anti-Black racism specifically, because like Jasper said, it'll normalize Blackness for people, especially in New Mexico. Like we have 55,000 Black folks in the whole state, right? So it's not normal for some folks. Still won't have a Black friend or know somebody that's Black. So just normalizing Blackness for people will help also, you know, also help minimize the anti-Blackness that we feel a lot of times here. And so for us, Juneteenth is a time for us to be blackity black, and unapologetic about that, and not worry about, you know, is it too much for others? You know, and so I think it'll help us normalize Blackness for the rest of the country and really the rest of the world. Because that's important, you know, at least, especially here in New Mexico. It's really important for us to normalize Blackness.
I like that. Now you say normalize Blackness. Is it so that we don't have to waste our energy trying to be a certain way to try to make other people comfortable?
Yeah, I feel like there's a lot of times we're having to dim our light and dim ourselves. And where I think as we get to be unapologetically ourselves, I know for me, I don't worry about dimming my light around folks anymore. You can't, if it's too bright for you, here's some shades, put them on, and we're gonna keep it moving. Because I'm not gonna dim my light
I love it.
You can't handle it all.
Exactly. Yeah, and that's the key right there. It's like if I'm not asking you to dim your light, you know, change who you are, you shouldn't be asking me. I was just literally having this conversation with someone in corporate America that changed jobs, and she's in a new place where she's able to be sort of free. You know, this place they don't care how you wear your hair. They don't care about you having to put no suit on. And I say, okay, you have an opportunity now to be in corporate America, but be you. And so you can now come to work as if it's your work, as if it's your business. I say what used to happen with corporate America, and it still happens to a great extent, is that you usually would be so focused on trying to make sure your hair looked, you know, more neutral, not Black, make sure your dress made you look neutral, not Black. You waste all of your energy trying to fit what they say is professional. Mm-hmm. And by the time you show up at work, you done wasted 30-40% of your energy, right? Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? And it's like, okay, why am I wasting energy on how I look? My hair is kinky, my skin is dark, and I don't need to waste energy trying to straighten it out. Not no problem if you wanted to, you're saying, right? But I don't need to waste my energy if I'm doing it to fit the professional, right? You know, you could wake up out of bed and just roll out and straighten, and you're professional, but I gotta go through all of these hoops to look professional, right? We gotta get past the point of thinking that that's what professional is. And and they're not the only ones that get to define that, right? That's one of those things of we got to start saying what we want, stand on it, and be unapologetic about it. Torrance, what about you? Future, 10 years from now.
10 years from now.
Speaking for Albuquerque, New Mexico, and the state of New Mexico, actual harmony in the community and using that to build some sort of form of power. You know, as siloed as we are, where we in this state, we need to find a way to come together and use the different segments of power and access that we have and use it for all of us and for a greater good.
Wow. Amazing. That's beautiful. Thank you all for coming on the show. Yay!
Thank you for having us.
Thank you for having us.
Now, what I know we would like to do, at least especially closer to Juneteenth, is hopefully have some more people that's having events that come on. And then maybe once we get really, really close to Juneteenth, we actually have one big event where we have maybe y'all on, maybe a couple other groups of all of, the different groups that are having an event, and just have just a quick show prior to Juneteenth, and keep it moving and let's build from this, right? Because we're having a celebration, but it's more than a celebration, right? It's the seed of our greatness, right?
Amen to that, and I'll say too. Ashe.
Ashe, y'all. Ashe.
Hey, I really do applaud what you guys are doing, and I commend you for your dedication, your hard work. And I'm really excited about what you're about to do this year, and you're going to have an awesome, awesome event. I just believe that.
Yeah, and we'll make sure to share the live stream on Juneteenth Blackout. So
please share. Please,
yeah,
definitely share.
And the website again, if you want to get information, RSVP for the event is nmjuneteenth.com for everybody want to get more information.
All right, you guys.
We'll put some information on the group page too, along with this video. It'll be on there.
Awesome.
All right.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, y'all take care. Y'all have a good one. Have a good night.
Good night.
Thank you so much.